Chapter 46 Elnor Island. After a while, he caught sight of the silhouette of Elnor Island on the horizon. Well, it couldn't really be called an island considering its massive size. From a distance, he observed flying boats and ocean-going vessels coming in and out of the island. Looking for a secluded landing spot to avoid drawing attention, he carefully descended. Once he stowed the flying boat in his storage ring, he headed towards the island's center. During his flight, he noticed others flying through the skies, displaying the strength of Tier 4 Sky Knights and Tier 5 Lunar Knights. As for the mages, they were inconspicuous like him, likely concealing their presence while airborne. Situated near the cursed woodland, this island served as a convenient resting and trading place for mages and knights seeking resources on the land. Due to the abundance of Tier 5 and occasionally Tier 6 resources, it attracted numerous formidable individuals in search of these valuable materials. Upon reaching the city gates, he decelerated and came to a halt. The entrance was divided into two sections. The left side was for individuals to personally register before entering, while the right side featured a large expanse of water for parking ships from other islands or continents. He joined the line on the left and patiently waited his turn. Fortunately, the line wasn't too long and soon it was his turn to proceed. "Place your hands on this," the guard said with a stern expression, pointing at a crystal ball. Observing the device, he recognized it as a mana receiver, which recorded an individual's mana to determine if they had been on the wanted list before. Once the crystal ball turned green, the guard handed him a metal plate engraved with his mana signature. "It's one low magic crystal for entry," the guard announced. He wasn't surprised by the exorbitant fee for entry, knowing that this was no longer the mortal world where gold was the currency of choice. On this island, where Tier 3 to Tier 5 beings were commonplace, one low magic crystal was affordable for most people. Without hesitation, he paid the required low magic crystal. After entering the city, he was greeted by a sprawling landscape of towering buildings and enchanting magical vehicles traversing the wide roads. These magical vehicles resembled cars from his previous life, but they were far more impressive and is powered by magic crystals instead of fuel or electricity. In this world, there existed a profession known as mechanics who utilized runes, various metals, and stones to craft magical devices and instruments. Being this world's creators of modern-like technology. However, such machines were a rare sight in poor and remote places. Having spent years transmigrated in this world, this was the first time he had witnessed such a captivating magical scene, reminding him that he had indeed traveled to a fantastical realm rather than an ancient world. Enviously gazing at the vehicles, he thought of purchasing one for himself in the future when he had amassed sufficient funds. Speaking of which, his purpose for venturing to the central continent was to engage in reselling to quickly earn enormous funds. He possessed an incredible cheat-like system mall that offered products at remarkably low prices, and he intended to exploit it to amass wealth. He had refrained from utilizing this advantage in the past for two significant reasons. Firstly, it would attract too much attention, and secondly, and most importantly, he was very poor, with only a meager amount of gold coins to his name. He couldn't risk exposing his system merely for the sake of a paltry sum of gold coins that he could earn. After strolling for a while, he arrived at his first destination, a towering structure resembling a combined mage tower with bridges connecting it to other buildings. This was the Elnor branch of the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce, one of the three most powerful forces in the central continent. As he entered, a steward warmly greeted him with a bow, using the customary style employed by mages. "Welcome, sire," the steward exclaimed. "How may I assist you? Could you introduce me to the products you sell here?" Maximus inquired. "Oh, you're new here, sire?" the steward responded with surprise. He thought that Maximus might not be familiar with the fact that the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce dared to sell virtually anything as long as one had enough money. "I have just arrived from one of the scattered islands," Maximus clarified. "I apologize for my manner, sire," the steward quickly apologized, realizing his lack of decorum. "We have a wide range of offerings, sire." "Where would you like to begin?" the steward asked. "Give me an introduction to the potions you have," Maximus suggested. "First and foremost, we offer a variety of first-order to fifth-order potions in this establishment. However, should you desire a higher-order potion, we can accommodate special orders for an additional fee," the steward patiently explained. The steward escorted Maximus to a comfortable lounge area and presented him with a list detailing the items available. Shortly after, a servant poured him a cup of tea. As he savored the aroma, Maximus recognized the use of Tier 3 tea leaves. He took a sip and nodded approvingly. Maximus was highly satisfied with the level of service, as expected from one of the powerhouses who specialize in commerce. Glancing at the list, he compared it to his system mall. The prices of common raw materials were nearly identical, with rare materials priced at least twice as much. When it came to finished products, there were large variations in price, with the system mall generally offering a price at least twice as cheap. Considering his purpose of reselling products to earn money, Maximus carefully scrutinized the materials on the index. After a while, Maximus called the steward over and somewhat embarrassedly asked, "Do you buy products here?" "Of course, sire. However, the recovery price for items is significantly lower than the usual market value," the steward explained. "Oh? Then how much is the price for a Tier 3 elemental potion here?" Maximus inquired. Elemental potions were the most common meditation resource for nascent mages. "Well, it costs 3 low magic crystals per vial, sire," the steward replied. This immediately excited Maximus. In the system mall, elemental potion cost 1,000 gold points or 1 low magic crystal, but in the store, it was 5 low magic crystals. Although the shop would earn a lot of low magic crystal from the transaction, he would still not be at loss as he was just multiplying his money. "In that case, I would like to sell 10,000 elemental potions," Maximus declared as he sipped his tea. He had brought 10 million gold coins from the 4-month profits of his kingdom. Buying 10,000 elemental potion quickly shrunk his wallet. "Oh, I can't process such a massive transaction. Please allow me to call my manager," the steward exclaimed, shocked by the sheer quantity of elemental potions Maximus intended to sell. Although elemental potions were commonly used by nascent mages, such a vast amount was still quite astounding. "Please go ahead," Maximus replied nonchalantly. He wasn't worried about any sabotage attempts for this amount of money. After all, just the Elnor branch of the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce earned hundreds of thousands of low magic crystals on average each day. The small quantity of resources he was selling was merely a fraction of their daily earnings. After a while, a gentleman in a white robe arrived. Maximus quickly took notice, sensing the strength of a Tier 5 mystic mage emanating from the man. "I apologize for the inappropriate attitude of the steward earlier," the gentleman bowed, which startled Maximus. Being a Tier 3 nascent mage, having a Tier 5 mystic mage bow to him was overwhelming. No, he was doing a good job," Maximus reassured. "I see. Then, thank you for your understanding," the gentleman replied with a smile. "I'm Lawrence, the manager of this establishment," he introduced himself. "I heard that you are going to sell us 10,000 elemental potions." "Are you an alchemist, sir?" he inquired. Being an alchemist was also a profession in this world, where one utilized the rules and various plants to create potions. "Yes, recently I've been short on money and am planning to go to the central continent, so I need immediate funds," Maximus explained. Being an alchemist was a good excuse when selling other products in the future. "Ah, that's excellent." Lawrence's eyes lit up as if he had just found a walking money bag. "May I see your elemental potions?" he asked, wanting to inspect the quality. Maximus agreed and shook his hand, causing crates of elemental potions to materialize from his storage ring. He had purchased them earlier when the steward had called for the manager. Lawrence quickly scanned the crates with his powerful spiritual consciousness and showed a surprised expression. "These are all high-grade potions," he exclaimed with excitement. Potions were typically categorized as low, medium, high, and top grade. Low and medium-grade potions contained impurities and required breaks in usage to prevent the accumulation of impurities in the body. On the other hand, high-grade potions were free from such impurities, allowing consecutive usage with minimal risk. As for the top-grade potions, they were blessed with the law, making them 10 times more potent than regular potions. Such potions were exceedingly rare in this world. Chapter 47: Taking a Ship. In the Elnor branch of Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce, Lawrence meticulously examined the quality of each elemental potion using his spiritual senses to ensure they were all high-grade potions. After a while, he turned his gaze towards Maximus, his eyes gleaming with approval. "Sir, the elemental potion you brought is indeed of exceptional quality. We are willing to purchase them for 6 low magic crystals each," Lawrence said, his excitement subsiding. "However, considering the substantial quantity you're looking to sell, you are eligible to apply for VIP 9 within our Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce," he explained. Curiosity sparked in Maximus's eyes as he inquired, "What is VIP 9 and what benefits does it offer?" VIP 9 provides numerous conveniences for our esteemed clients across all our establishments. In terms of our transaction, the buyback price would be set at 70% of the original price, which is 10% higher than the average. In this case, we would buy your elemental potion for 7 low magic crystals, Lawrence explained with a smile. Maximus almost cursed at him for being a profiteer. The implication was that the original price for the high-grade elemental potion was 10 low magic crystals, twice the price of the low to mid-quality potion. He was almost deceived, as there were no high-grade elemental potions listed in the catalog. So he just assumed that they were all priced the same. Apparently, high-grade potions were so rare that they didn't sell them in this branch. Can't it be higher? Maximus inquired, his greed getting the better of him. It was shameless for someone who had purchased the elemental potion for a mere 1 low magic crystal to ask for a higher price. Lawrence maintained his gentlemanly smile, unfazed by the question. Certainly, sir. If you upgrade to VIP 6 or above, you can sell it at a 10% higher rate, he patiently explained. Maximus's agitation subsided, but he couldn't resist asking, how does one upgrade their VIP level? It's quite simple, sir. To upgrade to VIP 8, you need to have transactions totaling between 100,000 to 1 million. For VIP 7, it's between 1 million to 10 million. VIP 6 requires transactions ranging from 10 million to 100 million, and so on until VIP 2. As for VIP 1, I'm afraid I don't know the specific requirements, Lawrence replied calmly, discussing as if magic crystals is the most common stones you see on the road. As expected from the world's #1 business commerce establishment, even reaching VIP No. 2 required an astronomical amount, between 100 billion to 1 trillion low magic crystals. Having come to terms with the reality that he couldn't ask for a higher price, Maximus reluctantly agreed to sell the elemental potion for 7 low magic crystals. Here you are, Lawrence said as he took out crates filled with magic crystals and a crystal jade token engraved with the mark EGCC VIP 9. Maximus first scanned the crates of magic crystals to confirm the amount. Satisfied with what he saw, he stored them in his storage ring. Next, he focused his attention on the crystal jade taken, imprinting his mana signature on it to establish its recognition. Mana signature served as the most common identification method in the world. Even mortals possessed a trace of mana unique to them. The use of spiritual consciousness was mostly reserved for contracts, as violating them could result in severe backlash from curses. After conversing with Lawrence for a while, Maximus was personally escorted out by him. Goodbye, Sir Maximus, Lawrence bid farewell with a smile. He nodded with a satisfied smile. Maximus realized that he had earned 70,000 low magic crystals, equivalent to a total of 70 million gold points. This sum exceeded his annual income from the Etheria Pavilion. As for why he didn't sell more, the answer was clear. Just tens of thousands of low magic crystals were already a huge sum of money for a Tier 3 nascent mage taking 100 years to save. Although he trusted the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce that they will not look at his little money, he still proceeded to end the transaction. The goal this time is to go to the central continent where there are more fish to catch. Making money there is less conspicuous and bigger. He was not satisfied with millions of low magic crystals, so of course he needed a bigger place to withdraw money. Proceeding to the harbor, Maximus made his way toward the ships going to the central continent. After a while, he laid eyes upon a massive vessel towering above even the tallest buildings in his previous world. The sheer size of the ship astonished him, but upon reflection, he understood the necessity. Without such massive proportions, the ship would be unable to navigate the endless sea, let alone reach other continents. This was also the reason why he had come to Elnor Island instead of directly heading to the central continent. His Tier 3 flying boat can't traverse the treacherous seas. After all, a mere gust of wind in the endless sea could annihilate it. Unless he had bought a higher-ranking boat, Maximus would not dare to sail straight to another continent. Just looking at the massive ship you can feel the coercion of a high-tier beast, which can surely intimidate the creatures of the endless sea. Such transportation vessels were constructed from massive Tier 8 or 9 sea creatures' carcass. The owner of this ship is the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce. Apparently, they are also in the transportation business. Walking towards the registration area, Maximus was approached by a specialized steward. "Here, sir. Allow me to escort you to the VIP area," the steward said with a slight bow. It seemed they had detected the crystal jade token indicating his VIP membership. The plate served as a positioning system within the territory of the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce, but fortunately, the positioning function can be deactivated or isolated in specialized storage. After a while, the steward led Maximus to a VIP room. "What kind of room would you prefer, sir?" the steward asked, presenting him with a catalogue. The rooms were divided into two sections, the common rooms and the VIP rooms. Common rooms are for the non-VIP customers or those that didn't have that much money. After seeing the options, Maximus chose a mid-scale VIP room suitable for his identity as a nouveau-rich nascent mage. "It will cost you 1,250 low magic crystals, sir," the steward informed him. Though he knew it was expensive, considering it was a special VIP room, Maximus still felt a pang in his heart. You know his Aurora Spectre is only 2,500 low magic crystals. He quickly paid the steward, concealing any sign of dismay as not to embarrass himself. "Here is the token for your room, sir," the steward smiled and handed him the token. As Maximus took the token, it emitted a radiant light, revealing a pathway that led to his room. Walking at a leisurely pace for 20 minutes to his room, he finally realized how immense the size of the ship was. Upon opening the room, Maximus was nearly blinded by the luxury it exuded. Looking at the footmat, he felt his blood energize. Who would dare to use the skin of a Tier 7 creature as a mat? There was a distinct aura of a Tier 7 creature. Looking at the skin pattern, he confirmed that is a saber tiger. The mat was specially processed, so instead of being intimidated by the aura, it invigorated his blood, filling him with energy. "This is truly a VIP room," he muttered in awe. He noticed a meditation room filled with complex arrays and runes, and just being near it stirred his meditation technique. The whole was adorned with wonders and exotic furnishings, fueling Maximus's ambition as he gazed at them. Unfortunately, he lacked the guts to steal them. "Just wait, I'll have my castle even more luxurious than these," he swore to himself. The primary objective of this trip was to amass wealth, not just any wealth, but hundreds of millions, if not billions, of low magic crystals. The mere thought of it made his mouth water. As for his safety, he had considered it long ago. Mask of Grimoire Tier 9, alters your appearance, mana signature, and spiritual signature, deceiving even the gods themselves. Price, 18 million top-grade crystal. Asterisk, a top-grade crystal is equivalent to 1 billion gold points. Yes, that was his trump card. With such an artifact, he could sell resources repeatedly until his hands cramped, without arousing suspicion. However, he couldn't possibly afford such an item with his meager savings. So, he opted for a lower-tier alternative. Mask of Grimoire Tier 5, alters your appearance, mana signature, and spiritual signature. Price, 40 million. The Mask of Grimoire could be activated with magic crystals, alleviating any concerns about having enough mana to activate it. Furthermore, it was upgradable, requiring only the expenditure of gold points. With this mask, Maximus was prepared to arrive on the central continent and empty their pockets. Chapter 48, Order of the Arcane. In one of the VIP rooms on the ship, Maximus finished exploring and entered the meditation room, curious to experience its differences from his own meditation room. Practicing his meditation technique, divine consciousness, he sensed a turbulent yet serene mana flowing rapidly through him. The speed of mana transmission was at least 100 times faster than his usual meditation practice. If he could train in this meditation room indefinitely, he could advance to a Tier 4 elemental mage within 2 years without taking any supplements. Unfortunately, he lacked the funds to acquire such a meditation room. Just looking at the materials used in the arrays and runes, he knows already that he can't afford it. A few days later, his token vibrated and conveyed a message signaling their departure from Elnor Island. Maximus reached for the ship token given to him by the steward, looking at it with curiosity. As he infused the token with his mana, it illuminated and presented a virtual screen displaying an image of the boat, swiftly transitioning to the main menu. "It resembles a mobile phone," he murmured, astonished by the technological advancements in this world that he thought were backward except for its magical wonders. Although the token offered limited functions specific to the ship, it was impressive enough for someone like Maximus, who had lived in a backward and ancient place. The main menu consisted of simple options, maps, services, and notices. Using his spiritual consciousness, Maximus tapped on the map. However, instead of revealing the entire ship's structure, it only displayed the available facilities. There was a gambling area offering various types of games, including fighting, cards, and more. Sub-professional areas such as alchemy, mechanics, weaving, runes, and puppetry were also present. Moreover, there were different areas designated for relaxation and training. After browsing for a while, Maximus selected the food area, feeling a pang of hunger. Upon selecting the option, a holographic projection emerged from the token, guiding him to the elegant and exquisite dining area. The sight of the surroundings whetted his appetite, prompting him to quickly find a seat and settle down. Observing Maximus, one of the waiters approached him with a menu in hand. "Here is our menu, sir. If there's anything else you fancy that's not on the menu, we can prepare it, especially for you," the waiter said, bowing politely and waiting for Maximus to make his choice. Perusing the menu, filled with a variety of delectable dishes, Maximus settled on pixie popper for the appetizer, sea dragon grilled steak for the main course, and a phoenix fire creme brulee for dessert. Opting for ingredients of Tier 5, he intended to indulge himself for a while as he now possessed the means. Typically, at home, he and his family could only consume Tier 3 ingredients due to their inability to digest higher energy foods. "Will that be all, sir? And what would you like to drink?" the waiter inquired, noting down Maximus's choices. "Just bring me a mystic moonshine brew," he replied nonchalantly. Maximus realized that just this single meal alone would cost him 750 low magic crystals, a sum unimaginable in the past. As the food was served, Maximus's eyes lit up at the taste of the pixie popper. He then took a bite of the sea dragon grilled steak, and his initial assumption was confirmed. Taking a sip of the wine, he marveled at the meticulous cooking process behind the food. Although he was aware that there is a sub-profession for cooking, he had never realized they could preserve the aura of ingredients so effectively. Usually, when he consumed food purchased from the system mall, the aura within it would diminish to less than 10% after cooking, resulting in a waste of energy. However, the food he was currently eating still retained 70 to 80% of its aura, even when cut into smaller pieces. Amazed, he quickly finished his meal. He exhaled, feeling pleasantly stuffed. Normally, with his strength, food would be quickly digested, but Tier 5 ingredients proved to be different. Hoping to aid digestion, he strolled toward the upper deck garden. After walking for a while, he discovered a fantastical garden adorned with carefully arranged greenery and flowers of various colors. He settled into one of the chairs, gazing into the distance, reminiscing about his life. It had been nearly 5 years since he arrived in this world, basking in its luxurious offerings. He now had 7 wives and concubines, along with 8 children. In his previous life, he had been a mere worker, hoping to save enough money to start a family. He sighed at the stark contrast. Lost in his thoughts, Maximus was interrupted when a waiter approached, offering him a complimentary tea. As he looked out over the endless sea, he marveled at the sea's vastness. Although he couldn't ascertain the ship's exact velocity, he was sure that it was moving very fast. Looking at the still ship, if it weren't for the imposing waves, he wouldn't have even realized they were moving. He could also faintly hear the sound of the harsh wind, which was muffled by the ship's protective barrier. Taking a sip of tea, he relaxed, allowing the gentle breeze and the fresh scent of plants to cleanse his spirit. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" A man with a rugged but energetic appearance disturbed Maximus's peaceful moment. "You can sit wherever you want," Maximus replied, unfazed by the man's rudeness, and continued to relax. "Thanks. I'm Griffin Helmsworth." "What's your name?" The rough-looking man, Griffin, persisted in his attempts to engage in conversation. Glancing at Griffin, Maximus sensed a strength comparable to that of a Tier 3 nascent mage. Using the system's function, he accessed Griffin's information on his panel. Griffin Helmsworth. Strength, Tier 3 nascent mage. Age, 56. Potential, rare. "Maximus," he uttered, uninterested in further small talk. "I'm from Helmsworth Plateau." "And you?" Griffin persisted, oblivious to Maximus's lack of interest. Noting that Griffin shared the same surname as the plateau, Maximus deduced that he must be from a royal family that had conquered the entire island. This must be the reason for his great strength despite coming from Cursed Continent and only having rare talent. After all, conquering the whole island can get you an enormous amount of money that you can then use to buy resources. Maximus looked at Griffin and asked directly, "Sunburnt Plateau. What do you want?" "Oh," Griffin apparently unaware of the place called Sunburnt Plateau. "I'm just bored and looking for someone to talk to," he replied. "Are you one of the prospective students?" Griffin asked, noticing Maximus's strength of a Tier 3 nascent mage, which just met the requirements for admission to the academies in the central continent. "No," Maximus replied nonchalantly. On the ship, there were 3 types of people: prospective students, adventurers seeking breakthrough through the central continent, and returning adventurers looking for exotic resources on the Cursed Continent for quick cash. Observing Griffin's rough appearance, age, and potential, Maximus concluded that he was likely selected to attend one of the academies under the Alliance of Mages. Alliance of Mages is also known as the Order of the Arcane, which ruled over all of the mages, one of the three powerhouses of the central continent. Academies are their breeding ground to train talented mages and knights. "Oh, I'm going to Battle Academy," Griffin continued, obviously not believing Maximus's response, that he was not a prospective student. "Do you have an academy you've chosen?" he said, not waiting for an answer. "I wish I could pass the Battle Academy exam, otherwise, my sister will send me to Spirit Farm Academy," Griffin continued to ramble on. Maximus no longer bothered to respond, treating Griffin's words as mere background noise. "Do you know my sister? She's very powerful. I heard she has mythic talent," Griffin subtly bragged about his sister. Maximus took a sip of his tea, unfazed by the tales of his sister's supposedly heaven-defying talent. "Anyway, we won't have any more interactions in the future, so why should I care? Can I just drink my tea in peace?" Hey, just listen to me. What if I introduce my sister to you?" Griffin suggested, hoping to continue to brag about his sister. "Alright, stop. Can't you just relax and keep your mouth shut?" Maximus eyed him, unable to fully relax with Griffin's incessant chatter. "Okay." Griffin abruptly fell silent and remained seated. After a while of silence, Griffin spoke up again, saying, "Can I talk now?" He sounded like a pitiful child. Well, I can't entirely blame him. After all, he's still young if you consider the lifespan of a nascent mage. Ordinarily, people live to be around 70 to 80 years old. The lifespan of an official mage is 100 years, which is the maximum a human can live without having sickness or ailments in their life. The lifespan of a great mage, however, extends to 300 years as their bodies undergo fundamental changes and the aging process slows down. The most significant transformation, however, occurs when one advances to a nascent mage, where the lifespan reaches 1,000 years. At this stage, the strengthening of the soul affects the body and greatly enhances one's longevity. Chapter 49 Alchemy vs. Mechanic. In the top deck garden of the ship, Griffin spoke up. "Can I talk now?" "Alright," Maximus finally gave Griffin a chance, taking pity on him. Griffin smiled and asked, "So, which academy have you decided to join?" Apparently, Griffin didn't believe that he was not a prospective student going to the central continent. Maximus thought about being a student and realized that it had many benefits. First, it would provide him with a formal identity. It was fine if it's just him alone, but he had a family to consider. In the future, if he needed to arrange things for them, he couldn't always stay hidden. Second, it would allow him to have a formal guidance. Becoming a student can help him avoid many detours and would help him grow stronger in the long run. Although he possesses the ability to study independently and has access to abundant resources, ultimately, without proper guidance from a qualified teacher, his achievement in the future will be limited. While his current tier of strength didn't require much guidance, in the long run, his lack of knowledge and little imperfections will hinder his further advancement. Third, as his strength grew, he needed higher resources, although he can buy it in the system mall, without much question from his wives and children. However, he didn't want to deceive his wives and children too much. At least when he achieves something in the academy, he will have sufficient reason to take out more advanced resources. And lastly, is for the safety of his kingdom and his follow-up plan to conquer the whole Sunburnt Plateau. Fortunately, he hadn't conquered the entire Sunburnt Plateau yet. Once he did, the rest of the inhabitants in the cursed continent would know his action. This is also the reason he wants to make a huge amount of money on his trip to the central continent. He needs a weapon strong enough to protect his interest and people. The reason the whole cursed continent would know his action once he conquered the whole Sunburnt Plateau was due to the influence of several powerful Tier 9 primordial mages. They had set up law arrays, manipulating the laws of the continent to prevent gods from interfering and gathering faith. Conquering a place situated within one of the scattered islands in cursed continents was typically their initial step to promote and collect faith. It started with the battle of gods, which destroyed and polluted the continent, which corrupted the mana, making it a cursed continent, which is named by magicians as it became a useless land for them. Angered by the gods' action of wantonly destroying land and corrupting people with faith, mages and knights banded to exile gods from interfering with their world. However, gods still have the divine continent, which had their divine energy already integrated into mana. The divine mana allowed them to descend to the divine continent without much world suppression, making the mages and knights helpless about them. But anywhere in the world became their forbidden area, as now they become a valuable specimen for research, making them hunted all over the world. Thinking about the academies he could choose, Maximus eliminated the Battle Academy as it was too violent and not in line with his personality. As for the Spirit Farm Academy, it seemed too leisurely and boring. While he would have plenty of free time for other activities, he wanted to choose an academy where he could truly learn and develop his skills. The Music and Art Academy didn't interest him either, as he thought it was focused mainly on assisting or picking up girls. It wasn't entirely useless, but it seemed more suited as an auxiliary profession rather than one for combat or practical training. Cooking Academy Pass. Formation and Array Academy Pass. Beast Taming Pass. Then the idea of becoming a mechanic crossed his mind since he wanted to combine magic and technology he had in his previous life. However, thinking that a mere token of a ship has advanced technology like augmented reality, he realized that his previous life's technology was more backward than what he thought compared to this world. On the other hand, he could consider the Alchemist Academy. He already had an alchemist identity within the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce. He was sure that Lawrence should have already reported his identity as an alchemist to Theer headquarters given his VIP 9 status. Therefore, Maximus was left with a choice between alchemist and mechanic, both of which interested him greatly and offered potential benefits. Returning to Griffin, who was still waiting for an answer, and Maximus who lazily sipped his tea, seemingly oblivious to Griffin's presence. Maximus finally looked at Griffin and said, "I'm not sure yet whether I should go to the Mechanic Academy or the Alchemist Academy." "Oh, that's nice," Griffin's eyes lit up. Both professions were associated with wealth or wanting to be rich. "Unfortunately, we haven't chosen the same academy," Griffin said with a hint of sadness. Observing Griffin's pretentious behavior, Maximus couldn't help but feel goosebumps. "Why are you here anyway? Don't you have companions?" Maximus asked, assuming that someone of Griffin's royal status would have siblings or cousins accompanying him to take the academy test. "Oh, they're gambling in the arena," Griffin absent-mindedly replied. Seeing Griffin's disheveled appearance, it was clear that he had lost his money and came to the upper deck for some fresh air. Maximus didn't respond further and continued to bask in the breeze. Griffin also fell silent, remembering that he had lost his money due to gambling. Fortunately, there was a bank on the ship, so he could still eat after withdrawing some money. After some time passed, Maximus stood up, planning to return to his room and study the basic knowledge of mechanics and alchemy. He realized that he didn't know much about these fields, and he couldn't pass the academy test without sufficient understanding. Glancing at Griffin, who was still sulking over his loss, Maximus said, "Goodbye, see you later." Although Griffin's constant chatter could be irritating, he wasn't a bad person to be friends with. Besides, Maximus was also curious to meet Griffin's sister, who possessed such mystical talent. After seeing Maximus leave, Griffin muttered, "Bye." Arriving in his room, Maximus purchased basic books on mechanics and alchemy. He decided to study what made these fields special and ultimately choose which academy he would attend. Reading about the basics of alchemy, Maximus discovered that it was the most revered profession in the world, focusing on the manipulation and combination of natural elements. Alchemists harness the power of nature to transform and transmute the world's materials, unlocking their hidden potential. Their primary focus lay in the study of intricate balance of the laws and rules as they sought to uncover the secrets of creation, hoping to manipulate them. Rumors circulated that alchemists at their peak could even create life itself, earning them the title of gods of creation and life. However, he remained skeptical of such rumors. While he acknowledged that alchemists could synthesize creatures, they were mere puppets with flesh and blood, lacking a soul, the fundamental aspect of a living, sentient being. The soul was crucial not only for the opportunity to train as a mage or knight but also for gods to collect faith. He doubted that even gods could create life with a soul, as they would have already conquered the world and flooded it with their believers if it were possible. Moving on to the study of mechanics, he learned that this profession was often referred to as a crooked path by mages. While alchemists sought to bend the laws and rules of the world to their advantage, mechanics adhered to and utilized those laws and rules. Mages viewed mechanics as obedient dogs of the world, following its dictates, which contradicted the mages' notion of wielding the laws and rules of the world to serve their own purposes. Despite being called a crooked path, mechanics were worshipped by many, especially the rich and weak. Unlike alchemical items that required corresponding power to use, mechanical items only needed magic crystals. This made mechanics more accessible to the wealthy and less powerful individuals. He even imagined the scenario of an enemy facing a seemingly weak Tier 1 official mage who secretly possessed several magic crystal mines. In a surprising turn, the mage could wield a mechanical energy weapon and take out huge amounts of magic crystals just to load the weapon and then blind the opponent with money before killing them. This was also the reason most mages considered mechanics as crooked path. Many mages were impoverished due to resource consumption. While mechanical items were cheaper than their alchemical counterparts, the huge consumption of magic crystals and accessories addition like bullets, just to operate them, dissuade most of them, telling them in the face that they are too poor to even use mechanical weapon. In contrast, you can manipulate alchemical items just by using your own mana. As Maximus pondered between the two options, he found himself entangled in a dilemma. Chapter 50 Choosing Profession. In the VIP room of the ship, Maximus found himself contemplating the choice between being an alchemist or a mechanic after reading about their basic introductions. But why bother studying one of these professions when he can simply buy them in the system mall? Isn't it just a waste of time? Studying one of these professions isn't just about the potential wealth and resources. After all, with his system mall, he can just resell rare items or products if he needed money. The saying knowledge is wealth in his previous world isn't just a saying here but a fact. In fact, without knowledge, your wealth isn't truly yours as it can be snatched by someone stronger than you. Knowledge is the path of strength, the foundation of magic. This is also the reason for various academies specialize in different fields of magic rather than just studying magic to attack or destroy. In the early stages of magic, from tier 1 to 3, one simply needed to introduce mana into their soul, much like knights introduced mana into their bodies. However, in the middle and late stages of magic, the quality of the soul mattered just as much as the quantity. And knowledge is the key to improve soul quality. Mages who study in Battle Academy, however, didn't require additional miscellaneous knowledge because they trained in both magic and knight paths. The advancement of mage without the required soul quality caused the lack of control towards mana. Battle mage compensate this by training their body to turn this lack of control towards explosiveness. And their knightly body serve as a cushion towards this violent mana to prevent them from being affected. Just imagine a battle mage waving an uncontrollable fireball the size of a nuclear explosion. While it would obliterate the enemy, it would also cause damage to their body due to lack of control. This is where battle mages got the title war machines. They were harvester of lives in large-scale battles and wars, where their uncontrollable power could be used wantonly. Maximus didn't like the notion of a mage being a barbaric war machine that can't even control his power. For him, mage should be noble and elegant even if they're harvesting lives like the god of death. Even if he trains in both magic and knight, he still liked to be in control of his power. To do that, he needed vast amount of knowledge to improve the quality of his soul. Since there are academies, why not join them, given its convenience and benefits? Returning to the topic of choosing a profession, Maximus first considered being an alchemist. It seemed like the most convenient path for him, especially since he had already gained some recognition as an alchemist when he sold 10,000 high-quality potions, a rarity even among low-tier potions. What intrigued him the most about alchemy was its potential at its peak. After alchemy reaches a certain tier and has enough energy, such as mana, alchemists could create or transform any matter. The idea of turning stone into gold, for instance, fascinated Maximus, as it implied the possibility of unlimited wealth. However, after years of researching the mechanisms of his system mall's gold point mechanism, Maximus discovered that not just any gold or material could be converted into gold points. He tested this by attempting to convert a raw gold block into gold points, but to no avail. Through trial and error, he reached a conclusion: gold itself held no monetary value, it was only valuable because people believed it to be so. Maximus referred to this belief as sentiment, and the system absorbed sentiment to generate gold points. In other words, money or gold coins needed to circulate in order to create the sentiment required for the generation of gold points within the system. Maximus further tested his theory by mining magic crystals. To his surprise, the magic crystals successfully converted into 1,000 gold points, indicating that they possessed a fixed value and did not require sentiments needed to generate gold points. This discovery fueled Maximus's grand plan to revolutionize the currency system by introducing worthless paper or even digital currency. After all, despite the seemingly infinite resources like gold, minerals and magic crystals in this world, they would eventually be depleted. He planned to first test this in the Sunburnt Plateau, where 150 million people would use his created paper or digital currency. By cultivating the people's sentiment and belief in the value of money, he could harvest this worthless currency through various means and change them to newly printed, sentimentless money without the people even knowing. He would be like a pseudo-god, harvesting sentiment instead of faith, as long as people believed and used his worthless currency. Doing so would reverse the role of the script. Instead of his system harvesting the world, Maximus will use this world to harvest the system. Turning his attention to the mechanic profession, Maximus felt a deep sense of interest due to his previous life where technology was convenient. Although he vaguely guessed that the technological advancements in this world surpassed his previous life, he still wanted to explore it. Furthermore, due to his pursuit of conquering the world, he found that alchemical items were too limiting for ordinary people, as only those with mana could utilize them. Mechanic items, on the other hand, could be accessible to the masses. This would undoubtedly accelerate the exhaustion of world resources since mechanic items heavily relied on materials rather than mana. However, Maximus saw a symbiotic potential in combining his plan to use worthless currency to harvest system resources and propel mechanical advancement in this world. Additionally, he found mechanics to be an easier field to start and advance in compared to alchemy. While mechanics studied and obeyed rules, alchemists focused on studying and bending laws and rules. This makes the mechanics advance leaps and bounds compared to alchemists as they go by the laws and rules of the world. After carefully considering the differences between the two paths, Maximus ultimately decided to pursue mechanics. However, he didn't entirely abandon alchemy, as he recognized its usefulness. Nonetheless, his primary focus would now be on mechanics. With this decision made, he purchased a massive number of basic mechanics books from the system mall. The books he acquired included Basics of Mechanics Composition of Different Materials, Reactions of Matter to Each Other, Basic Mechanical Blueprints, Using Spiritual Power to Combine Materials, Combination of Runes. Having bought a substantial number of books, Maximus began reading. Thanks to his nascent mage strength, he possessed an unforgettable memory and could read at a faster pace using his spiritual consciousness. However, as he looked at the mountain of books in his storage ring, he couldn't help but let out a sigh. It would take years just to finish reading them all, not to mention the additional time required for training what he learned. And these were just the basics of Tier 1 to 3 mechanics, which he could grasp for now. 16 days later. During the half-month period of study, Maximus barely scratched the surface of Tier 1 mechanics, which left him somewhat disheartened. Nevertheless, he pondered the lifespan of a mage, even at the nascent level could reach 1,000 years, what's more in the higher tier. Considering this, it was understandable that higher difficulty professions like alchemy or mechanics required a substantial investment of time and effort. He was already lucky and had it easy to have a complete inheritance that he could just buy from the system mall. Although there were academies that offered their inheritance and knowledge, he was certain that it wasn't freely given. But even then he couldn't help but sigh, this mountain of books were just the surface level of the profession. From higher tiers like Tier 4 mechanics, the knowledge required started to delve further into the intricate fabric of atoms and laws that is in the object. Just thinking about it made his head swell. Maximus stopped for a moment and glanced at the Notice tab of the ship token. Estimated time, 1 day before landing in Lothmire City of Arcane continent. Counting the time of the ship journey, he realized that it took at least half a month to travel from Elnor Island of the Cursed Continent to the Central Continent. The speed of the ship amazed him, considering the vastness of the endless sea. The endless in the endless sea is not just a decoration but a literal truth. Even Tier 9 Primordial Mage or Tier 9 Cosmic Knight didn't even fully explore the endless sea given the chaotic wind that isolate the 4 continents. Even the gods don't know what is on the other side of the chaotic wind. Whether they were initiate gods or inherited the godhood, they all come from the same place not knowing what was on the other side. Many believe that passing the endless sea lead to another world, or some believe that it was a mere void separating them. But even then the explored endless sea is like a void of space seemingly infinite and thus given the title endless sea.